On this episode, I'm going to share why the disrespect for NFL kickers needs to absolutely stop immediately. But I got some stories to share. Yesterday, my daughter slept in, and she slept in past the time that my wife leaves for work, which puts me in a bind because my wife is the one that puts her hair into a ponytail. And what is concerning about my wife and her mom leaving for work is that, well, she's got super curly hair. Her hair is going to be a mess. It's going to be all over her face. And a couple months ago, I bought headbands to put into her hair because that's what husbands and dads do. They put headbands in her hair because they can't tie ponytails. Well, I couldn't find a single one. And I bought like a pack of 5, which is ridiculous. So I had to do what any brave soul would do. I attempted a ponytail. I attempted putting a ponytail in our 2-year-old daughter's hair. And I did not fail completely. It was not a complete and utter fail. I did decent. It wasn't a perfect ponytail by any means, but as I was doing it, I was watching a YouTube video from a mom doing it in like a 70-year-old girl's hair. Now, my daughter's not a 70-year-old, so that complicates things, but I was following the instructions. I had the pony in one hand, her hair in the other, and I was wrapping it around and I was pulling it together, and I successfully, some way, somehow, put a ponytail in our daughter's hair for the first time ever. And I'm pretty proud of myself for doing that. So I just wanted to share that story. Also, another thing to get into. Hurricane Milton is striking Florida today or yesterday as we speak, and there's lots of images that are horrifying. There's lots of videos that are just unbelievable. And I thought this video was a good one to watch today.
You might still be in the eye right now. There's a lot more to go. I think back to, the Atlanta Falcons first half Super Bowl winner. We know what happened to the second half when the Patriots came back to life. So do not sleep on the second half of Milton. And we're definitely concerned now with this surge.
The weatherman takes an absolute stray and goes after the Atlanta Falcons lost 28-3, which, wow, what year was that? Was that like 2017 or 2018? What year did the Atlanta Falcons blow a 28-3 point lead? Because this weatherman came out of nowhere during this report about Milton and says, yeah, don't sleep on Milton because the Atlanta Falcons slept on the Patriots and they blew a 28-3 lead. Let's see here. When did the Falcons lose the Super Bowl? 2000. Gosh, XXX. X. Come on. 1998 season, they won their Super Bowl. No, they lost to the Denver Broncos, 34-19. And then the second, 18 years later, a 34-28 overtime loss to the New England Patriots. It's so confusing, these LIs, these XXX, I. Why do we have to be so challenging in how we label our Super Bowls? 18 years later, 1998 plus 18 is 2016. So 2016, this weatherman goes back 8 years and takes a stray at the Atlanta Falcons for losing their 28-3 point lead. I just thought that was funny. These guys over here braving the storm, getting soaked in the rain. Why don't I take a stray at the Atlanta Falcons? Okay, this is what I really want to talk about today. Will Reichard is not getting enough respect around the league or on the Minnesota Vikings organization, because this guy has been 100% from the field so far in his kicks. He's attempted 16 extra points, and he's made 16 extra points. He's attempted 9 field goals, and he's made 9 field goals. He's attempted how many 50-yard field goals? 3 50-yard field goals, and he's 3 for 3 in 50-yard field goals. My biggest problem is how disrespected kickers are in the NFL, because the Minnesota Vikings drafted Will frickin' Reichard in the 6th round of the NFL draft. And that's typically where kickers go. They go anywhere from the 6th round to the 7th round to undrafted. And that's if you're really good. You have to be really good to get drafted in the 6th round. But I want to make a speech for kickers today. Kickers that are the ability of Will Reichard should be selected in the top 4 rounds in the NFL draft. Not number 1, but why not number 2? Why not the 2nd round? Why are kickers disrespected? These guys literally win you games, and they get drafted in the 6th or 7th round? Your team's fate depends on their foot and their accuracy. And there's only a few select guys that can do this. You can't substitute a punter and he can come in. Kickers are undervalued in the NFL. And here I am defending them. This is unfair to those great kickers that get selected in the 6th round of NFL drafts. Because the Minnesota Vikings, their win against the Niners was solidified by none other than Will Reichard. Sam Darnold put him in position, made a field goal to go up by double digits. The Minnesota Vikings win against the Green Bay Packers, solidified by none other than Will Reichard. Put the Minnesota Vikings in field goal range, knocked it in for the game winner. And last but not least, the Minnesota Vikings victory against the New York Jets in regulation. Sure, it was solidified by Stephon Gilmore with the interception, but who made sure it didn't get into overtime? Will flippin' frickin' Will the Thrill Reichard. And these guys are getting drafted in the bottom 2 rounds in the NFL draft? The disrespect needs to stop. Because you look at the Minnesota Vikings and their kicking history. Greg Joseph in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 was 82.2% in his abilities. From 50 yards, 50 plus, 15 for 26. It's not very good. From 40 to 49 yards, 17 for 23. From 30 to 39 yards, he was Captain Clutch, the easiest kick in the game, 25 for 26. Let's go before Greg Joseph. Dan Bailey was 79.7% for the Minnesota Vikings. During his time with the Vikings, he was 63 for 79. And he was the Minnesota Vikings kicker in 2018, 2019, 2020. And then from 50 yards, he was 13 for 23. From 40 to 49 yards, he was 23 for 24. And from 20 to 29 yards, he was 21 for 22. All I'm saying is that the Minnesota Vikings kicker, after lots of tumultuous years, after so much worry, after so much concern that If we got into position, they're going to miss the kick. Greg Joseph, Arizona Cardinals. Vikings played them on the road, got in scoring range. Field goal wins the game. He shanks it right. The Minnesota Vikings have a kicker that's clutch, that's consistent, that has so far made everything. And I'm going to stand up for kickers today because I don't think we understand just how valued these kickers are. They literally dictate the game. And here are NFL organizations selecting them in the 7th round. Let's take a look at previous Minnesota Vikings drafts because the 2024 draft isn't fair. The players selected ahead of Will Reichard were Kyrie Jackson, and he passed away. Okay. Can't talk about that one. But first round picks, J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner, you're not going to argue those. But the Minnesota Vikings selected a guy named Walter Rouse in the 6th round. 26 spots ahead of Will Reichard. The Minnesota Vikings decided that this random offensive tackle that wouldn't play is more valuable than Will Reichard. I am on the Will Reichard train. And let's just go to the 2023 NFL draft, where the Minnesota Vikings selected Mekhi Blackman in round 3. Will Reichard is way more valuable than him. He's got a torn ACL right now, so I don't want to beat up on a dead horse. Round 4, Jay Ward. He's decent, but I'd rather have Will Reichard than him. Round 5, Jacqueline Roy. We don't even have him anymore. Round 5, Jaron Hall. We don't have him anymore. All I'm saying is that kickers are much more valuable than players selected in the mid-round of these NFL drafts that turn out to be nobodies. I just don't get the value. 2022, Brian Asamoah barely played. He's a special teams guy. I'd rather have Will Reichard over him. 3rd round pick. 4th round pick, Caleb Evans. I'd rather have Will Reichard than Evans. Round 5, Isezi Atomanio. You just go up and down these drafts, and you look at what these mid-round picks historically have done for the Minnesota Vikings. And a 6th round pick that's a kicker provides more value than these guys. So I want to see a change by the NFL moving forward. That kicker should not be selected in the 6th or 7th rounds, but talents like Will the Thrill Reichard should be selected in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. 2nd's too high, 1st is too high. But what is wrong with investing in a kicker in the 3rd round that dictates the game by their foot? Don't you want a guy that can win games like that? Or do you want to bounce around and search for guys that stink, that are dirty leftovers from other organizations? Anyways, I think that's what should happen. And that is my rant today on NFL kickers.